What a time to be alive. If only you knew how powerful you were as a black person, they will not only respect you, they'll also bow at your feet. They are already afraid of you. That is why they're doing everything they can to make sure you don't recognize your power. The saga continues. France's downfall does not need to be studied because it's as easy as ABC. They are broke. They have fired their third prime minister within 1 year. Look at this photo. No matter how many prime ministers you fire, you will not be able to dig yourself out of this because you're poor, you're broke. Without Africa, you're nothing.
France is now ungovernable. You better believe it. France is now ungovernable. The country that actually made its money from bleeding black people, the country that forced Haiti to pay 150 billion for their freedom. And one of the reasons why Haiti is still in the situation it is right now is because of France. France, the country that bled Africa, making sure that the countries that it colonized basically had to pay a colonial tax for being colonized. That country, you know, the country that one of the biggest slave traders in the world, that country has run out of money. They cannot afford to pay the pensions. They cannot afford the healthcare system. Literally, France is literally on the verge of economic collapse. And this is serious. France is in worse trouble than Greece was, except at the time the European Union was so powerful at the time. But now the European Union was weakened by Brexit. The European Union has been weakened by Trump turning against them. So now the European Union, they're just running around like headless chickens. They cannot even bail France out. France is literally on the verge of collapse. And coming close after France is going to be the UK and Germany.
Hi guys, welcome to yet another video. It's Ndagre here. Thanks for clicking. On today's video, I'm excited to share this news because this is exactly why we come on social media like myself and people like me that talk about these things, because it needs to be spread out. So apparently the empire of France, or most empires of the Western nations, are literally collapsing because, you know, ever since Western African countries or West African countries came up and they were like, you know what, we've had enough with being taken advantage of, especially when it comes to France, because it colonized them. And like they were giving more to France than France was actually giving back to people of West Africa. So they were like, you know what, Burkina Faso, Senegal, Gabon, Niger, West African countries were like, we have had enough. And ever since they started pulling away and chasing the French or France away from their countries, everything has shifted. And we can clearly see how we come here and we say Africa is the reason why Western nations stand, and people are like, oh, Africans want to put themselves on the top or whatever. Without the Western nations, you guys cannot survive. But here we are. Ever since West African countries just away France from their, you know, their policies from their country, we can clearly see what France is going through. It's collapsing. It's about to look like Greece, you know, if not even more, because I mean, the Western nations, every day there's some chaos that is happening in that side. So it's really like nice news for me that I really wanted to share with you, and what Africans are saying about this whole situation and what is going on really. Come back, let me know your thoughts on it.
I saw this a couple of weeks ago and I wanted to report it, but there's so much happening. But today when I saw that the Prime Minister had a motion of no confidence against him, I thought, well, this is perfect. So Macron, the French president, had sent a letter to French hospitals to tell them to prepare for war for next year. And that letter it was covered internationally that France orders hospitals to prepare for major engagements by 2026. But France is broke. France is literally broke, and that's one of the reasons the French have a prime minister that lost a motion of no confidence, and they literally have fired its second prime minister in less than a year. I have a friend from France, and their politics is worse than ours. I guarantee you their politics is worse than ours. The only thing is that it's not as popularized as our politics. And I want to tell you this: the biggest reason that France is going broke is because of the African colonies. The African colonies have cut ties with France. Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Chad, and Senegal. They have cut ties with French, and that has had a huge impact on France. You'd remember that the French colonies would actually pay France a lot of money to be a colony. And this shift in decolonization move from the African colonies has cost France a lot of money. And that is why you saw the president child, because losing his mind and threatening the African colonies when they kicked him out in 2024 and then earlier this year. And it's about to get worse. It's about to get worse. And that's again why it's so important for Africa to cut ties with the West, because they literally cannot survive. I just did a video of Massmart losing billions of dollars in the US and now coming to Africa to invest. And the reason that they're losing billions of dollars in the US is because of the DEI rollouts. That means that they de-invested in people of color, minorities, the LGBTQ communities, and then they come to Africa so they can continue to make money off Africans, the same people that they marginalized in the US. We have to move away from the West. The West cannot survive without Africa. Case in point, France.
France did not see what is happening in West Africa coming. So they find themselves at a time when they are very weak economically, when at home the population of immigrants is growing bigger and bigger. You go to cities such as Marseille, you find Algerians, you find Moroccans, you find Senegalese, you find Guineans, you find Burkinabe, and things are not happening as they used to be then.
What's going on in Burkina Faso is a great example of how propaganda does not have to be false to be propaganda. I'm sure some of you remember a few years ago when Western news outlets were talking about the oppression of the LGBTQIA+ population in Palestine, while they were bombing out of Palestine. Now white people are spreading stories about the oppression of the LGBTQIA+ community in Burkina Faso. Let me ask you something. When have the French or the British or the Americans cared about Burkina Faso? White people don't care about Africans in the first place. Do you really think they care about gay Africans? Let me ask y'all another question. Do you think that when white people go and invade an African country and destroy it, or they murder an African leader and cause tons of civil unrest, do you think that these bombs and bullets magically miss the gay Africans? Burkina Faso freed itself from French military occupation like 2 years ago. For the first time since the 1890s, did you hear a single word about the LGBTQIA+ population in Burkina Faso before they told the French that they couldn't steal anymore from them? You already have these white people out here calling Captain Traoré a dictator. What has happened in the past when white people start calling an African leader a dictator? We have to stop listening to what the enemies of our people say about our people. Didn't they call MLK a troublemaker? Didn't they call Mandela a terrorist? When Burkina Faso first got liberation in like the 1960s, their first leader was very, very friendly with the French, and the French were allowed to keep their military bases in Burkina Faso. They had soldiers there until 2 years ago. Are you free if your enemies have military bases on your land? No. The French have killed about 1 million Algerians. They killed hundreds of thousands of people in the DRC. They killed 400,000 Cameroonians. They killed 20,000 people in Mozambique, several thousand in Chad, several thousand in Morocco. That's just military violence. That doesn't even include the deaths by starvation. The French have said themselves that the quality of life of French people is dependent. It's contingent upon their ability to exploit Africans. This is former French President Jacques Chirac. He says we have to be honest and acknowledge that a big part of our money in our banks comes precisely from the exploitation of the African continent. Without Africa, France would slide down into the rank of a third world power. I'm sure y'all have heard this before, but France ranks 4th in the world for gold reserves. There are no active gold mines in France. France looted 36 tons of gold in 2015, 39 tons in 2016. France is the villain in this situation. Do not think that if they spread news that they're doing it for the good of the queer people in Burkina Faso. I swear, like these white liberals and leftists talking about Burkina Faso, it reminds me of conservatives talking about black on black crime in North America. White people in North America want to judge how Burkinabes act when they have independence, when they don't even support independence for black people in North America. And let's not pretend like white America has any place to judge. How many anti-gay bills do you think the United States has introduced in the past 2 years? They introduced 850 this year alone. Do you think that maybe another country should come over here and teach us a lesson for our treatment of the oppression of the LGBTQIA+ people? To sum all this up, we as Black people have to be extremely critical about where we get the news from, who's telling us, what is their intent, and what do they want us to feel. We have to be aware of the historical relevance on who is telling us the news, and it's a tough thing for us because a lot of the news that we get comes from white people, and white people are the enemies of Black people. And it's been this way for hundreds of years, and it's not our fault, it's because of what they've done. This ties back into my previous video talking about lethal Western hypocrisy. There are Chinese Muslims. Do white people care about Chinese? No. They've been waging economic war against China for decades. They occupied China for a century. Do they care about Muslims? Look at what's going on. Of course they don't care about Muslims. So why would they care about Chinese Muslims? Do Americans have a great relationship with the gay community in general? Absolutely not. Do they have a good relationship? Do they treat Africans well? Absolutely not. So do you think they care about gay Africans? Absolutely not. We cannot let our perception of reality, of geopolitics, be colored by the perception of our people by people who profit from the problems affecting us. Oh, and one more thing. I'm really tired of people talking about imperialism as an action without an actor. It's like they talk about slavery, right? Who did the slavery? Who is doing the imperialism? The Europeans. Okay? That's who's doing it. So these are the allies of the United States that have been doing these barbaric things to Africans for over 100 years, the same way that the Americans have been doing it, okay? So we really need to understand that just because the French are the allies of white people does not mean at all that they are our allies. They are the enemies of African people. We do not have to have the same geopolitical positions as the people who have been subjugating us. In fact, it's a measure of domestication and brainwashing for us to align ourselves in any way with the French. The French said liberty, equality, and fraternity, and then turned around and killed 1 million people in Africa. White Americans did the same thing. They said all men are created equal, and then go and put Black people in breeding camps and treat them as less than humans. These are not our allies. And until we wake up and realize who our enemies are as a group of people, we're going to be under their control. The best way to keep a prisoner is to convince him that he's not in prison. And the best way to keep a people subjugated is to convince them that they are free.
So the French government has fallen again, but international news media is going to be very shy about telling us the real reason why it's fallen, the economic reasons why it's fallen. On his way out, the ousted Prime Minister, Mr. Francois, said, "You might kick me out, you might remove me, but that does not change the economic problems for the country." I'm paraphrasing. The real reason why France has failed as a government is because Africa has taken its power back. Ever since the country of Niger, in the Sahel, in Central West Africa, decided to nationalize its uranium, France has never been the same again. This uranium that state-owned companies like Orano, French-owned companies like Orano had been siphoning, stealing under the previous government, today, Niger turned off the faucet. Niger said no more. So Niger, under the new governance of President Tiani, is nationalizing its uranium. This uranium France was stealing not only to light its beautiful cities like Paris and Nice, it was also using it to run its electrical manufacturing and industries. All of these are processing and running their nuclear reactors on top of it all. So these things that are the foundations of an economy, like manufacturing and processing, right now that the electricity in France, their energy is not safe. They do not have a reliable place to get their energy from. This is why they're suffering. But it's not going to be told that way on international news media. You're only going to hear it from people like me and others who are truth tellers. So yeah, this is why. This is what happens. This is proof that African leaders are in service of either them or us.
Well, I usually don't like covering politics, but the fall of France is so bizarre. Okay, it's like it's falling in slow motion. Like it is falling. 14 African countries have kicked it out, and the revolution, of course, started with Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. And now the government, I think last night, has collapsed again. The second time in a year. This is the second time it has collapsed in a year, meaning they can't agree on stuff, basically. So they're busy kicking people out and firing people, and there's no ministers and all that stuff. When it's slow motion. Why is that slow motion? The minute Congo ere no more. o tlo thunya mushi.
As you've seen in the video, that is what is happening and what people had to say about this. And this is exactly what I say all the time, that it's a good time to be alive as an African person, as a black person, because you can't make this up. Most of the times the Western media is always pushing propaganda. Oh, Africans are starving, they can't survive without us. We are the ones that give them everything. We give them billions and billions of money. But hey, that billions and billions of money is just a piece of paper. The amount of things, the resources really Western nations get from Africa cannot be compared to a piece of paper they brag about. And now we can see ever since, especially when it comes to Burkina Faso, because when Burkina Faso woke up and elected, and actually they didn't elect, but he took over, when Ibrahim Traore took over the government and was like, you know what, I'm so tired of France being in control of Burkina Faso. Like, everything has to be in our way now as Africans. He changed the language from, French, being an official language, to their language as the people of Burkina Faso. He changed most of the things. He pushed away the military from Burkina Faso, and other West African nations followed along. So we can see how or who survives without the other. It's clearly Western nations cannot survive without Africa's resources. And every time we come out and say these things, people want to make us feel like we are less than, and of course the media is not going to talk about how France is collapsing and is losing, relevancy. Because if you have to change prime ministers, like 4 prime ministers in a span of a year, it shows everything is a mess. It's a mess. Even there are people on the street protesting every single day because they are seeing their country in shambles. There's a lot of immigration. There's a lot of chaos. Africa is chasing France away. They have nowhere to go. So yeah, we're gonna see France as Greece in the near future, and it's amazing news. Like, guys, I don't know how happy I can express myself. It's just exciting news that I have to share with you guys. But yeah, let me know what you think about this. Africa is really doing something impressive, and I love it. West Africa, they are doing it, and I love it. Guys, that is it for me in today's video. Let me know what you think about this. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Thanks for the members, super chats, and everyone that watches the videos. I appreciate your time. I'll see you in another video. Bye.